Welcome to the Shaun Tabatt Show, a podcast where I connect with thought leaders from across the globe, digging into important topics like creativity, personal development, marketing, health, spirituality, and so much more. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Hey, good afternoon to all my friends out there on Facebook. Excited to bring you a conversation this afternoon with a friend of mine. You may have listened to an interview Erin and I did, sometime last year. I don't remember how many months ago, but we had a good talk about just kind of her story, her testimony, and we talked about her amazing book series, The Bible Bells, which my little girls are all fans of. I can vouch for that. I've read the first 4 books in that series, probably collectively probably 100 times. I'm surprised the books, they're not worn out. They're good quality books, but they're definitely huge fans of the series. So just wanted to spend some time catching up with Erin. She's had a bunch of new stuff come up in her kind of speaking and ministry kind of career, the things she's got going on. So we're going to catch you up to date on that here in just a moment. So give me just a second. I will bring her into the conversation. Now you can see Erin, but you can't hear her. So let me turn her up. All right. And she's, as every good author does, she is drinking coffee in the afternoon. So I got mine here. So I'm all set as well.
It's still the morning for me, Shaun.
That is true. That is true. I forget you are on the West Coast. I'm in the central part of the country. So yeah. Well, let me get my notes. Actually, I had some questions I wanted to ask you. So
you got it.
I actually had a riveting game of post-lunch Spot It going with my 4-year-old. So she held me to that because I had promised it, and so I had to have my priorities straight and get that done before coming back upstairs to do this interview. So
see, Rooney's turning 4 next week, and that game is already on my list of games. I've been told by 4 parents, you need this game.
Oh yeah, it is a huge thing in our family. We've got 6 different versions of it, and
perfect.
Yeah, if you have kids who love kind of puzzles and just matching, you can kill hundreds of hours with that beautiful little game. So
that is really awesome.
I hope you enjoy it. So
yeah. Well,
Erin, first get us up to date on the Bible Bells series. Actually, start us for the people who maybe aren't familiar with that. Just give us kind of the overview of the storyline for people who just have zero idea. Bible Bells, what is that? Tell us a little bit about kind of the story our kids are going to be drawn into when they encounter it.
Yeah, we started Bible Bells a few years ago and just simply wanted to connect girls to the women of the Bible. And it was born out of an idea that, all the little girls we know can name all the Disney princesses, but not really one woman in the Bible they've formed a meaningful connection with. So we chose 5 women for the first series. They're all Old Testament heroes of faith, all women. And we just felt like they represented a progression a girl could take to learn a couple of things, what God says about real beauty. So developing character and understanding her true identity and how much God loves her. And we really felt like these 5 women could teach girls that in just a way that made a lot of sense. If you were going from no relationship with God, you would start somewhere, and then walking them through, the stories of these women and the character traits they represent, all the way to, okay, helping a girl realize, all right, God, you've made me for something. You've created me and equipped me with all of these traits. What do you have for me to do? And what's the work that you're calling me to in this life, God? And so the 5 women we chose were Hannah, Esther, Abigail, Ruth, and Deborah. Hannah, because the first step in a real relationship with God is prayer. You've got to open up your life and just talk to him and learn to communicate. Esther, because patience is next, right? You can't just be talking to God all the time. You have to sit still and listen, discern his voice, and act according to his timing. Abigail, because once your relationship with the Lord is established, it's going to be tested, right? And there are going to be moments where you feel afraid, you're not sure what to do, and you've got to call on that quality of bravery that God equips us with to just step in and do the things that are hard, but the right things, because you know that God is with you. Ruth is the Belle of Loyalty, and she just simply teaches that part of our calling and our purpose for this life is that we would love and serve others faithfully. And she's such a great example of helping girls understand you've got to put the needs of others ahead of your own and love people no matter what. which is such an important lesson in today's culture. And then I'm so excited because Deborah is releasing in just a few short weeks, and she's the Belle of Leadership. So we've brought girls this far and tried to instill these qualities in them. And now it's the moment. The series is coming to an end, and it's really that opportunity for our main character to realize, okay, God, I'm equipped. I feel emboldened and empowered to do the work you have for me. What are the ways you're calling me to lead? And Deborah is such a good example of someone who dedicated her life to public service and not only stirred action in herself, but in other people. And she used her sphere of influence to lead God's people in and to win an amazing battle in the story of in God's ultimate story. So it's such a cool thing. Sorry, it was a long-winded description, but it's an honor for us to be finishing this series and just to help girls understand that, yes, these are women we can look up to.
Yeah, I think the nice thing about this series is, one, the artwork is super high quality, Disney princess level, as you described it. And it's just, these are biblical characters that we can feel good about introducing our young ladies to. And just with a lot of the children's literature out there today, it's not explicitly pushing them to develop character traits. And so just to be able to have them fall in love with stories and characters who are pursuing good character traits in what's unfolding, as a parent of a bunch of kids, that's a beautiful thing. So, I love that, like we talked about last time, just the journey you've been on to, bring these books out one by one. It's been a fun adventure as you and your husband have learned how to be entrepreneurs and publishers, and just kind of making it up as you go along. And so I love that as you get to kind of this part of the journey where the series is complete at this point, God's opening up a bunch of other doors for you, for Bible Bells, and for you as speaking and ministering. So wanted to get into some of that next. So one of the exciting things that has come about, partly related to your speaking, but also for promoting Bible Bells, is your partnership with World Vision. So tell us, what does that look like for you from a speaking perspective, and also from the Bible Bells brand and new people encountering the book? What does that mean for you guys in 2018 and beyond?
Such a good question, because I mean, when we started this journey, I was like, okay, Lord, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to just teach in the classroom and I'll write this book series on the side. And God was like, no. So what this partnership with World Vision is really a game changer for us. It's sort of twofold. So I've since, left the classroom and have started speaking and sharing and amplifying this message for girls and female empowerment and leadership and all of the places where I feel like God's calling me to go out and share a message. So I was just added officially to World Vision's speaking bureau. So I've become a part of their speaking team, and I'm honored that I get the opportunity to travel around, talk about the impact that World Vision has had on our lives, not just me personally, but as a family, through child sponsorship and through some of the different initiatives that they offer. So the speaking side of that is sort of one vein that we're going to be working in, with me traveling around and coming alongside them for their message to just amplify the work that they're doing, which is amazing work. And then on the Bible Bells side, we're starting a pretty amazing partnership with them. So for the release of Deborah, the Belle of Leadership, we're doing a buy one, give one. So for every book purchased, every Deborah book purchased, we're going to match that and donate an additional book to a girl living in an under-resourced community. And with the help of World Vision and their reach and what they can do to help us really get this series. I mean, ultimately, my heart has always stirred for girls everywhere, not just for families who can afford to buy this book series, living in the United States, for example. So partnering with World Vision really gives us a chance to get these resources and to teach these lessons and connect girls to women in the Bible who may not ever have the chance to even, or have one opportunity to hear this message. So it's just an honor to be partnering with them on the speaking side and then the book side to just, help each other and grow, the work that we're trying to do for God and for the good of the world.
Well, and another thing that's fun, just as I've kind of followed your journey online and caught up over email and a few phone calls with your husband, you guys have been keeping me in the loop on where you've been going and what's been happening. Talk to us about how your speaking platform has expanded, because you got to be on the 700 Club and a bunch of shows, some of the other CBN shows. You've been doing speaking engagements in entrepreneurial circles, and God's just opening up some, obviously you still teach and share with children. And I think that's probably your heart's passion, yet God is putting you on a a major world stage with big TV media. He's allowing you and your husband to tell your story in front of business people. Talk to us about some of the unexpected places you've been in the last 12 months.
Gosh, so many of them. So, yeah, like I said, I really just expected as a teacher to go, okay, I'll spend my time teaching kids and we'll put this book series out and we'll go the traditional way. And God very quickly was like, no, that's not really in the plans for this. So since I left teaching, I mean, a lot of doors have opened, which I can only attribute to the Lord's work and everything. So I think a couple of the highlights for me was I got to a couple months ago go back to Penn State, which is my alma mater. I played softball there. And I was invited to speak as a keynote for Global Entrepreneurship Week and tell all sorts of stories about, the struggles of starting a business and not having everything figured out and leveraging, people that you know and having people come alongside you to really grow something when you don't have the experience. So there's sort of that side of it. Other opportunities for, like I said, it's totally God's hand all over everything. The American Cancer Society, so getting to share my cancer journey and how God has healed me and just, the blessings that have come from submission and surrender and then where God's taking us. So the American Cancer Society stuff is amazing to do. I'm so grateful for that partnership as well. And then I'm leaving next week to do, I think, my 7th speaking tour with Air One Radio. So Air One, which is the sister company of K-Love, which everybody knows, sponsors a public school assembly program called Dare to Dream. And it's a 35-minute, amazing, inspiring, experience for students to come in. Hundreds of students at a time just get to hear a very targeted message of hope and my story of healing and just the cancer stuff and around helping kids and feeling like what we want to do is impact the next generation, right? To just understand that God's equipped them and God has a specially designed leadership role and a special set of tasks and a purpose for them. And it's time to mobilize the next generation to really step in and undertake that with excitement, with passion, with all the things that we want to do to stir up this next generation of leaders. So, all that to say, just so many different things God has me doing. And I'm just trying to, as requests come in and we network too, because, the entrepreneurial side is a side of hustling as well. So, the hustling and the requests that come in, we're trying to be good stewards of the opportunities that come in and just share our hearts and share that God's glory and his might and his power could be revealed in every one of these speaking opportunities. So it's just an honor to be a part of it.
Well, I think one of the things that whether you're going the route that you and your husband did, self-publishing this book series, or if you're working with a traditional publisher, regardless, when you are an author, there is a lot of hustle involved and you have to push and do a lot of your own marketing. For all practical purposes, you are now an entrepreneur and a business owner.
Yes.
For the author who might just be starting out, is earlier in the journey, maybe share like what was the most surprising thing you learned in the process of probably discovering a ways into the journey. Oh, I guess I'm sort of an entrepreneur now. Like, what did you learn, and maybe what would be 1 or 2 tips that people need to be aware of?
Oh, I've learned so much. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, which I say to my husband, we agree on daily. Also keep going. But I love sharing this story of our early season of just going, okay, we have this idea. We want to connect girls to the Bible. They can all name the Disney princesses. They can't name any women. And where are the resources? So we went to a bookstore at just a local church in San Diego. And we didn't know where to start. We were just thumbing through books. We were like, let's find some cool books and what kind of artwork do we like? And it was very, just informal, the research part of what we did. And we found a couple of books written by an author out of Tennessee named Amy Parker. And we thought, well, we like what she's doing. It's catchy. It's cute. What if we emailed her and asked her some questions? And we did that. And the most surprising part of, even just having okay, we're going to do that. Let's write her an email. Like, she might not even respond. She not only responded, answered our questions, but was instrumental over a several month period in helping us write a business proposal. A book proposal, our business plan. I sent her the draft of the first Hannah book before we even had a Rooney Cruz frame character, back when it was just a simplified version of Hannah from the Bible. And I mean, years later now, it's 4 or 5 years later since we developed that friendship with her. And I would consider her a friend and just a precious mentor as we've started and gone and grown and all the things Bible Bells has become back when it was just a tiny book idea in a bookstore. But if I could advise anybody, if you're in that early season and you're like, I have this idea, I'm not sure what to do, find somebody who is ahead of you and reach out to them, whether it's a direct message on Instagram or a Facebook message or an email or however you can reach out and ask your questions and be surprised when they get back in touch. And they might not, but the way that asking for help has sustained and helped us just keep going throughout the process. We've asked a lot of questions, just to gain knowledge and to gain insight from people who know because they're further ahead. So all that to say, I mean, you'd be surprised who will email you back and who just wants to help because they, like you, were in that place a few years ago when they were first starting out. So there are a lot of people out there who want to bless you with the knowledge you need to just take the next step forward. So ask the questions.
Yeah, and I would say another great place to reach out to people is on Twitter. I'm amazed at the number of messages, responses, or just if you give somebody a shout out on Twitter. It's probably one of the easiest places I've found to connect with authors that are outside of my immediate network. So just the quickness of the responses is kind of surprising. Sometimes it's instant because they're getting it on their phone, and Twitter's not so daunting because it's not a ton of characters. So as we're beginning to wrap up here, I'm curious, so you've obviously put time into writing 5 books and telling 5 stories with Bible Bells. God's opened up your speaking platform on a much bigger scope than it was a year or 2 years ago. Through the journey of writing the books and, getting into what it looks like to share your message on a bigger scale, what have you learned about storytelling or just the process for, like, how you would have prepared to tell a story, say, 2 years ago, how has that shifted to what it looks like today? You're a lot of it, I think, is you're telling the same story, but the scope and the expanse is a lot bigger.
I would definitely say, let go. I've let go of telling the superficial, surfacey story. And God's really challenged me to tell and talk about parts of my story that would have embarrassed me years ago that don't anymore. I mean, my husband, even when we started this and I was still teaching, he was like, I feel like God's really going to challenge you to share your message. And I instantly said, I'm not a sharer because I spent years as an insecure, confused teenage girl, like so many girls did. And you've got young daughters and you know what they're about to come through. But, I spent a lot of time hiding my emotions and making it seem fine on the surface and just burying everything down deep. So God has really challenged me in the telling of these stories and in the telling of my own story to just let go. And the more you can be authentic and really explain your brokenness and your struggle, the more people can see how God has redeemed that and the work that God's doing in you. And for someone who would have never shared a personal story with anybody years ago, that is what I am challenged to do every single day. And I do it through the lens of how is God going to be glorified by me sharing this hard thing I went through? What can he reveal to somebody and what's stirring in their spirit can they hear? Because I was just obedient to share a story that may have felt uncomfortable before, but I'm getting more comfortable as it goes on because I can see the fruit of what God's doing.
Yeah, well, God's teaching me this too in a big way, just learning to get more comfortable talking about my own personal journey and just struggles and all sorts of things like that, because that's what people connect to. I mean, what people are drawn to is when they hear our stories of how God has transformed our lives, how God has rescued us from our own pits, they can relate, and that gives them hope and that gives them encouragement. It's scary because we're afraid people are going to reject us or see that we're not all perfect and wonderful as we might look or portray on the outside. But it's that just that real, that sometimes that raw yuck junk that, we all got that stuff in our life. So hats off to you for embracing the challenge. It's scary at first, but I find once we get a little bit of traction under our feet and we see how God uses it, then it's exciting to get out there and share those things that scared the heck out of us 6 months ago, 12 months ago.
But I love that I get to do it too. And I just was prompted to say this, that, I get to share what that looks like. And, stumbling over the embarrassing, sad, dark parts of your story, but I get to model that honesty and that openness and authenticity with my young daughter, who ultimately, I'm trying to guide and help her understand, God's direction and plan and purpose for her life. And part of that is that she wouldn't shy away. And, the tough things she's going to go through, I want to show her somebody who, the things are tough, but here they are. And here's how God's hands are all over everything, every part of our lives. His timing is perfect. We just need to be brave enough to step out in faith and to share the ways that we've struggled, because God, you can see him so much more clearly through all of our struggles, because he's that constant guiding force. I mean, he shows up so much inside that pit that you just mentioned, that I'm excited to enter into the season of speaking and sharing all these stories, and having my daughter, my little 4-year-old daughter, along for the ride, to just show her that this is what it can look like to just be your true self.
Well, and I really like how you kind of describe that, in the sense that I think as parents, as we're allowing God to transform us, or just being transformed, and the Holy Spirit's doing a bunch of work on the inside, our story, our unfolding story, is part of our children's story, and it's part of the legacy we're building for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. I always feel like we're laying this foundation in the same way that we're standing on the shoulders of our parents and our grandparents. We're building those foundations for our own children. So the more that we can be transparent and bring them into our story and share with them what God is doing, I feel like it allows them to start that much further ahead than where we were at their stage in our own personal journey. Well, we got to wrap up here, but one of the things I want to make sure we get out there is, Erin, where can people connect with you? Where can they find out about Bible Bells? Where do you hang out online?
Yeah, so I'm mostly on Instagram and Facebook. So for Bible Bells, it's just at Bible Bells, everything. So it's at BIBLE, and then I'm Erin.Weidemann most places. To check out our website, though, and to take advantage of the Buy One, Give One campaign for Deborah and World Vision, just find out more about what we're doing. The website is www.biblebells.com/Deborah.
Awesome. And like I do for every episode, I'll put links in the show notes so people can find out where to buy the book, where to connect with you, check out your World Vision promos for Deborah. Sadly, I've enjoyed talking to you, but it is time to bring this episode of the Shaun Tabatt Show to a close. Many thanks to all of you who are watching live and those who are going to be listening later. Thanks for being a part of my conversation, catching up with Erin today. If you have daughters, granddaughters, I strongly encourage you to check out the Bible Bells series. It is a favorite in my home. When Deborah comes out, be sure to order that and get the previous 4 books that go with it. I think you'll enjoy. They're the kind of book you can pick up one and just read it by itself, but the story does build from over the journey of book 1 to 5. So there is a point to reading them in order. But like Erin said, if you want to connect with her, find out more, a good place to start would be BibleBells.com. And Erin, I just want to say thanks for sharing with the watchers, listeners today. Good to catch up with you and hear more of what God's unfolded since we last connected. I was sad that I wasn't in a pink room today, though. Last time we talked, I recorded. This was our old house in Minnesota. I recorded in my daughter's pink room, and today I'm just in my stark white office at the house in Illinois. So
that's amazing. Yeah, no, I love it though, and I love the books everywhere. It just gets me in the right frame of mind to talk about it. All right. Thanks so much for having me, Shaun.
You're welcome. Thanks for sharing. That's all for this episode of the Shaun Tabatt Show. If you have a question or comment, be sure to give me a shout out on social media or send an email to show@shauntabatt.com. The intro and outro music is from the song titled Jesus Loves You, written and performed by my good friend Casper McLeod. It is from his album Faithfulness, which is available at theupperroomfellowship.org. Until next time, this is your host Shaun Tabatt, signing off.